Hello, my name is Paul and welcome to Building Blocks English. In today's lesson, we're going to look at the future continuous and the future perfect. We've already seen the basic future tenses in a previous video, so today's tenses will be more advanced. Let's start with the future continuous. We use this tense to talk about future actions in progress, and we make it by using will plus be plus verb ing. For example, I will be eating. You will be reading. She will be running. And of course, it is very normal when we are speaking to contract the will, so you will commonly hear, I'll be eating. You'll be reading. She'll be running. The negative form is created with will not plus be plus verb ing. So, I will not be eating. You will not be reading. She will not be running. Or, as we know, we often contract will not to won't, so it is also common to say, I won't be eating. You won't be reading. She won't be running. Finally, we form the question form with will plus the subject plus be plus verb ing. Will I be eating? Will you be reading? Will she be running? Okay, so we use the future continuous to talk about actions in progress at a specific point in the future. For example, at 5:30 p.m., I will be cooking dinner. This means that now I am not cooking dinner, but later I will start cooking, and then I will finish cooking. And at 5:30, in the middle of these two actions, I will be cooking. We can also use the word still to indicate that the action started before now and will be continuing at the specific point that I mentioned. For example, at 5:38 p.m. I will still be cooking dinner. Means that if this is now, I started cooking before now, and I will finish cooking after now. And at 5:30 p.m., which is also after now, I will still be cooking. Notice the use of at 5:30 p.m. In order to use the future continuous, I will often use a time expression to give context, to tell me the point when the action will be in progress. So I could use at plus time. At 8, I will be driving to work. In plus year or month. In 2070, we will be living on Mars. On plus day. On Tuesday, I will be working from home. Or this time plus next year, next month, tomorrow, or next day. This time next Friday, I will be traveling to Melbourne. We can also use the future continuous to talk about actions that will happen in the normal course of events. This means the action is not planned, it happens naturally as a result of another action. For example, I will be passing your house on the way to Melbourne. Can I call in for a visit? This means I'm traveling to Melbourne. Maybe I'm coming from Sydney, and your house is in between Sydney and Melbourne. Naturally, by traveling to Melbourne, I will be passing your house on the way. Another example, you will be reading this book as part of your university course in the next semester. So you are studying a course at university, and naturally, as part of that course, you will be reading a book. We can also use the future continuous for new temporary repeated actions in the future. For example, I will be on holiday in Melbourne next week, but I'll be checking my email at least once a day. So I am not normally in Melbourne. When I'm at home, I can check my email whenever I want, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 times a day. But next week, I will have a new temporary repeated action. I will be checking my email at least once a day. Or when I'm in Melbourne next week, I will be eating out at a different restaurant every day. I do not normally eat out in a different restaurant every day, but next week, because I am on holiday in Melbourne, I will have this new temporary habit. I will be eating out in a different restaurant every day. Finally, we can use the future continuous to ask polite questions about future intentions. For example, who will you be bringing as your +1 to my wedding? Or, will you be traveling here by plane or by car? I don't have to use the future continuous to ask a question about the future. I could just use will plus infinitive, but when I use this future continuous structure, it makes the question politer. Okay, let's talk about the future perfect. So, as with all perfect tenses, we have a future perfect simple and a future perfect continuous. Let's start with the future perfect simple, which is a short future action before another time in the future. We form it with will plus have plus verb 3 or past participle. For example, I will have eaten. You will have read. She will have run. And of course, I can contract this to I'll have eaten. You'll have read. She'll have run. On the other hand, the future perfect continuous is for longer future actions before another time in the future. And this is formed with will plus have plus been plus the verb ing. So, I will have been eating. You will have been reading. She will have been running. Or, when it's contracted, I'll have been eating. You'll have been reading. She'll have been running. We form the negative of the future perfect simple with will not plus have plus verb 3 or past participle. So, I will not have eaten. You will not have read. She will not have run. Or the contracted form, using won't, I won't have eaten. You won't have read. She won't have run. Meanwhile, the future perfect continuous negative is created with will not plus have plus been plus verb ing. I will not have been eating. You will not have been reading. She will not have been running. And again, the contracted form with won't. I won't have been eating. You won't have been reading. She won't have been running. Finally, the question form of the future perfect simple is created with will plus subject plus have plus verb 3 or past participle. Will I have eaten? Will you have read? Will she have run? And for the future perfect continuous, will plus subject plus have plus been plus verb ing. Will I have been eating? Will you have been reading? Will she have been running? So, how do we use the future perfect tenses? Remember, the future perfect simple is for your short future actions before another time in the future. For example, by 5 p.m., I will have read all of my emails. And notice that all of my emails refers to a quantity because we use perfect simple tenses to talk about quantity. So, if this is now, and 5 p.m. is then in the future, at another point in the future, before 5 p.m., I will read an email. And after that, I will read another email. And after that, eventually, I will have read all of my emails by 5 p.m. On the other hand, the future perfect continuous is for the longer future actions before another time in the future. So, by 5 p.m., I will have been reading my emails for an hour. And notice that for an hour talks about duration, because for perfect continuous tenses, we often talk about duration. So, if this is now, and that's 5 p.m. in the future, at some point around now, before, maybe after, I start reading, and then at some point before 5 p.m. I finish reading. By the time 5 p.m. arrives, I will have been reading for an hour. Notice that I'm using by 5 p.m. So we often use by plus time expression to give context for the future perfect. So by plus time, by 8:30, I will have driven to work. By plus year or month, by 2070, we will have been living on Mars for 5 years. By plus day, by Wednesday, I will have worked from home. Or by plus this time, plus next year, next month, tomorrow, next day. By this time next Saturday, I will have travelled to Melbourne. We can use other time expressions with other prepositions, but using by is the most common when I'm talking about the future perfect. Okay, so that was the future continuous and the future perfect simple and future perfect continuous. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson and found it useful. If you would like some more information about the content in today's video, please refer to the link in the description below. Alright, that's all. Please like and subscribe, tell all your friends, and I'll see you next time. Bye!